Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making your way here. You know the usual drill. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. I do 3 brand new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. And I am so excited today to be talking with Mike Rosenberg, aka Passenger, who's back with another record, as he does every single year, this time called Songs for the Drunken Brokenhearted. Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
I'm doing great over here, man. So this is, first off, the compliments, anybody that puts out this much material as consistently as you do usually means that you're going to get a record here and there that's forgettable. And I just don't think that really happens yet with you. I mean, every single time you put out something really good. Congratulations, I guess, are in order on another great record.
That's really kind, mate. Thank you, and that's very nice to hear. Yeah, I've just always written an awful lot, and I think I'm very lucky in the sense that I can write wherever I am. You know, I've got a lot of musician friends that need to be in a specific environment or set their surroundings in a certain way to go and write songs. And I've always just been able to write, you know, whether I'm on a tour bus or at home or on holiday or whatever. So I think it's just been this loop of, you know, I'll write an album, we'll record it, I'll tour it, and by the time I get home from tour, I'll have another one written. So it's just been that kind of constant conveyor belt for the last 10 or so years. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you don't have to worry about, you know, the band mentality of waiting for everybody else, I mean, I guess that makes it quite a bit easier for you.
It really does. I think you can be an awful lot more flexible with how you do things. You can adapt quickly and you know, like I work with my producer Chris Faleo, and really it's just the two of us, and then we get musicians in as and when we need them. But yeah, you're really right in saying that. I think you can work quicker as a solo artist for sure.
Yeah. So when it comes around to the records, then I mean, I guess that does ultimately give the opportunity for, if not a concept record or something, but the thematics all to come together. I know this time it's been talked about a little bit, like, okay, so this ends up being the breakup record because this is the songs that come post album. If that is the case, if that's also how you do see this record, what's the voice that the record ends up having? I mean, how does our hero fare? Is it a journey? Is it a straight line in that sense?
I mean, Songs for the Drunken Brokenhearted doesn't sound like the hero does too well, unfortunately. This must be like the 6th breakup record as well, unfortunately, from my back catalogue. I think it's just, you know, like obviously everyone goes through breakups and rough times like that, and I think as a songwriter, I tend to draw on whatever I'm going through and whatever is around me. And so yeah, I mean, I went through a breakup just before lockdown, so I think the double whammy of those two things was a real sort of melting pot creatively for me, and these songs sort of just came pouring out. I mean, some of these songs as well were written in lockdown, which definitely gave them a very distinctive feel, I think.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting when I hear about it, because I ask, how does our hero fare? And you know, it does sound to me that, and not that there has to be a resolution either, but it sounds to me like a lot of these songs find you in, as Dr. Seuss would say, the waiting place.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. Sorry to cut in. Yeah, I think we've all been in the waiting place for like the last 14, 15 months, right? Like it's definitely that element of it. And what's cool, I think, as well, is that this album, actually, the first version of it was finished early 2020, before, like, pre-pandemic. And it was due to come out like this time last year, and I ended up holding it back just because it felt so depressing to release music with so little way of like getting behind it. You know, I couldn't make videos, I couldn't play gigs, I couldn't do anything to gain momentum for it. So that's when I started writing new songs in lockdown, and ended up adding, you know, 3 or 4 of them to the record. And I really like that because it kind of gives a deeper perspective. I think a lot of the earlier songs were just as I was going through the breakup, or even some of them were written before. And then the ones that came later were actually after a few months of being on my own and being in lockdown, and, you know, the dust had settled, and the perspective is different on those songs. So I really think it's kind of added a lot of depth to the album.
Yeah. When you listen back to these now, like, do you still hear the vulnerability of your state at the moment, whatever that might have been in those. And the follow up here is, do those ever, even in the past, do those ever result in, is cringe the right word? Like, oh God, man, where was I when I did that?
Oh my God.
Ooh.
So it's so cringy. Like it's like going back and reading like a diary from when you were like in high school, and all of the problems you thought were really enormous back then. It's funny because I've been doing these weekly live streams on my YouTube and Facebook and stuff, and I've been doing a different passenger record every week. So going back and like relearning these songs, and some of them, not often, I'm glad to say, but some of them I'm like, what was I thinking with those lyrics? Like, there's just moments where I'm like, yuck. But yeah, I mean, it's all part of it. I think if you do anything creative, there's always the chance of looking back on it in 10 years' time and thinking, God, what was I thinking? It's part of the creative journey, really, and I try and embrace it as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because that was one of my questions about, playing the albums in full, in the lockdown, because for a lot of artists, even though in your live shows, sets will change, from night to night, but I'm sure there still are those songs that you maybe hadn't visited in a long time. Do you feel like that has offered you to gain a different relationship with your past catalog than you might have had?
Yeah, definitely. You're absolutely right. Night after night, you're playing pretty much the same set list just because it works. That there's a really nice sort of shape to it, and you don't want to mess with it too much because it can really sort of take you out of your stride. So I think you can get a bit lazy with it. You know that the set works. You know that certain jokes work at certain moments, certain stories, certain songs. And it works, and the crowd go away happy. So you think, well, I'm not going to tinkle with it. I'm not going to mess with it too much. It can get a little bit, if you're not careful, it can get a bit stale, I think. And it's been such a nice opportunity to go back through all of these songs and, unearth some of them that I kind of think now it's like, actually, you know what, that really needs to be in the set, or at least kind of like needs to be played a little bit more. So it's been a really good exercise and actually a really big challenge to go back every week to basically relearn 10, 11, 12 songs and get them up to the point of where I can perform them. Mm-hmm. It's been a really good way of keeping my hand in musically and my head engaged, my brain engaged with it, and also, keep on connecting with my fan base, which, I'm so lucky to have.
Have you done all the records at this point?
I think I've done like 8 of the 13. So yeah, chewing through them slowly.
Well, to get back to this one at hand, again, songs for the Drunken Brokenhearted. We got to talk about it before it's already an old record and you're on to the next one. So I want to hit a couple of songs because of how much I like these. The Way That I Love You has this, I don't know, when I hear it, this great 70s feel. Like I recall Gordon Lightfoot, a little bit of Jim Croce in there.
Cool. Yeah.
Do you find yourself at this point like referencing other musicians when you're writing? Do you catch yourself ever doing that?
Yeah, definitely. And I actually think, if I'm really honest, that it's probably a bit too close to Jim Croce at times, that song. I really do. And it was only after I like recorded it, and I'm a big Croce fan, but I haven't listened to it for a long time. And that's the thing with music, like it creeps into your subconscious, like we're also affected by all of the music that we've heard over our lives. And so it's so easy to stray into that slightly like, uh-oh, that's kind of a bit close territory. So, yeah, pending lawsuit, I should imagine. But yeah, no, that's the kind of music I grew up with. My dad's actually from the States originally. He's from New Jersey, and my ma is English. So I kind of grew up on a diet of great sort of 60s and 70s singer-songwriters from both countries. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Croce in himself. I know he's got a few hits that people know about, but man, what a catalog that guy had that just went so deep.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. He's an unsung hero, really. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
Yeah. And maybe it's just by chance, as we're talking about 60s, 70s songwriters. Suzanne doesn't sound like a Leonard Cohen song, but you still, that's the mindset. Like, I don't know, was that part of it at all?
Yeah, that was definitely a much more sort of conscious tip of the hat towards Leonard. Yeah. The truth is that I was writing Suzanne like not about someone specifically. I think everyone has met a Suzanne in their life at some point. She's, that woman who's maybe in her 50s or 60s, and she's sitting in the same seat at the same bar every night, drinking the same drinks, smoking a cigarette, and staring off into the middle distance. And we've all met that woman at some point. And so I was writing that song, and I was so excited about it. And I knew that I needed like a female name for the chorus. And Suzanne just fitted so beautifully. I'm a massive Leonard Cohen fan. It felt like a really nice tip of the hat towards him, and it just felt like it clicked into place when I sang it.
Yeah, it's almost unfair that certain musicians will make a name so iconic that it almost like you can never use it, although you've found a great way to do it, but it's almost like that, and Springsteen's done it every all the names.
Absolutely, yeah. When we're running out of names, we have to start getting really creative with it. Yeah.
In a similar fashion, that comes up a little bit on was it the title track, where you've got the Joker, the Jester, and the Gambler.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's what is that? There's a little bit of American Pie. There's a little bit of All Along the Watchtower.
Yeah.
Kenny Rogers, obviously. Again, I don't know if that's coincidence or I'm just really reaching at this point.
Basically, we're discovering that I just steal all of my ideas from fantastic 70s singer-songwriters. Yeah, definitely. I think actually this album is more sort of influenced than most of my other music. I think there's a lot of Beatlesy moments as well. Some of the chord progressions, like London in the Spring, and other moments like feel quite Beatlesy for the first time. And again, obviously, we're as musicians who have lived since the Beatles, we're all massively influenced by them, whether we like it or not. But that's definitely been coming through a lot stronger this time as well. So I feel like maybe it's just getting older, and these are sort of like pushing through in a kind of firmer way, these ideas. Yeah.
I love the way you interpret them in that sense. I mean, it does. It comes out. There's another track on here with Sandstorm. Like, to me, less so than what we're talking about. Like, that's kind of the other direction. It's got this amazing film quality to it. It's very cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd actually just love you to talk about that song, because I was drawn so quickly to that one.
Yeah, a lot of people are. I think it's so different to the rest of the album. I think like it's a much wider musical landscape than the others, and it sits right in the middle of the record. And I think it was kind of pushing our comfort zone in the studio a little bit as well. Like it gets big. It starts very small, but it gets really big. And I love the concept and the meaning behind the song as well. Like this like, yeah, I am the sandstorm. I am the sandstorm, and you are the sand. Like this kind of feeling like you're this like crazy big negative force that kind of comes sweeping into people's lives, and it's hard. It's a hard subject matter to get across correctly in a song, I think.
Yeah. I also love the horns in that song. Were they an obvious choice? I mean, did you hear that as you were writing it?
Yeah, I'm a big Calexico fan. I'm a big
love Calexico.
that kind of Southern States Mexican kind of crossover thing. So I think that mariachi trumpet sound is always welcome in Passenger world. Sure.
I do love that. You had mentioned having the luxury of adding the 3 songs post lockdown, and Sword in the Stone I think was one of those, right, which becomes the lead single. Did you have an idea of what the lead single was before Sword in the Stone ended up being on here?
Yeah, I think what you're waiting for, again, we're talking about influences, and that just sounds like the Smiths to me. Like there's that real sort of like like post-punk kind of thing going on with that, which I never thought I would say about a Passenger song, but like I think I think that's a great melody. It's very hooky. It's very catchy. So I think that was probably the obvious choice. And then I wrote Sword from the Stone halfway through lockdown, and it was just a game changer. Like I write a lot of songs, and I like most of them, but I think every now and again you stumble across something that's special. Sorry, I just need to pick up my cat Rosie.
Hello, Rosie.
Hey, you're fine. Let's go.
Rosie's favorite songs? Does Rosie have favorite songs?
Rosie has a song called Rosie that I wrote about. I got her when she was a kitten, and the first night that I had her, there was a massive storm outside, and she was freaking out and like running around. And I wrote her this little ballad to try and calm her down. It didn't work at all. She didn't care at all.
As a cat would not.
Yeah,
Typical
no, exactly.
cat, right?
And most humans don't. So what I was expecting from a tiny cat, I don't know, but she has her own song.
Some life affirming answer or thought with what you just said there. What should I expect from it?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to expect from her. Nor does she.
I only asked because you mentioned the Smiths. Have you been following the Simpsons and Morrissey deal?
No, what's been going on?
Oh man, I don't know if we should get into it. Somebody's gonna get mad at us. No,
Oh, really?
The Simpsons did a they had Cumberbatch voice a Morrissey-esque guy, except he was much later in his career and he was racist and overweight.
Okay.
And Morrissey got very upset, and now they've released a song which was actually written by one of the guys from Flight of the Conchords, and it's just been some fun drama. I say that as a Smiths fan because if you're a Smiths fan, what you have is a complicated relationship with the music. You
do, and yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of all of the people involved, like Flight of the Conchords, Simpsons, Smiths. I'm a fan of all of them. So like, I hope they can bury the hatchet and put their differences aside because they're all excellent. And so is Rosie.
Rosie. I do want to quickly point out one of the greatest parts about this record, beyond the music, is what you're doing with the sails and the trees. This is so great. Actually, I'm just going to let you talk about this because a tree gets planted with every physical purchase.
Yeah, so yeah, through our web store. So every album, so CD or vinyl that gets sold through our web store, which is passengerofficial.com, if anybody wants to check it out. We've teamed up with Ecology, and a tree gets planted for every sale. I think we've planted like 15,000 trees now, which is, look, it's not going to save the planet single-handedly, but I think if you're making physical products in 2021, I think we've all got a bit of a responsibility to just offset it in whatever way we can. And it's cool as well because the material used is all like recycled, and even like the shrink wrap is biodegradable and stuff. We sort of looked into it and tried to make it as eco-friendly as possible. And I think it's not that difficult. I mean, I think it's actually, as I say, I think the onus is on labels and artists to kind of take responsibility for this stuff now.
Yeah, that it is. You're exactly right. I mean, I hadn't thought of it in that way. If you're going to put out a physical release, in a digital world,
right,
which, a lot of us still enjoy. I've got huge stacks around me all around this room right here. It's, but that you're doing something. Has environmentalism always been a part of your train of thought? I mean, can you trace that to a point?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm certainly aware of it. I live in the country and sort of live as green as I possibly can. Having said that, I've been touring for the last 10 years as well. And, like every human being, we're all a bit of a contradiction as far as this goes. I think, as I was saying, like whatever you can do in a small way, I think it's really easy to feel very helpless about all of this stuff, isn't it? And just to kind of give up and just think, well, what's the point in recycling my Coke can? But, it's a very cliched thing to say, but I think if we all take on those little things, then it really does make a difference. It's yes, yeah. I think I don't think it's a choice anymore. I think everyone needs to take responsibility for it. Otherwise, Mars, here we come. Yeah.
If everybody just does a little thing, that's the thing right there. If everybody just does a little, it goes a long way. It's so much.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm certainly enjoying the new sets. Again, Songs for the Drunken Brokenhearted. It is an uplifting family fun adventure that everyone should take the ride on. Is the next one in process? Of course, I've got to ask that.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's been an incredibly fruitful time creatively. Lockdown. As I said, I wrote several songs to finish off the Drunken Brokenhearted album. I also released a little album called Patchwork, which was a charity album. All the money went to a food bank charity called the Trussell Trust here in the UK. But I wrote so much in lockdown that not only, there was the sort of 2 or 3 that got added to Drunken Brokenhearted, and then there was like these sort of 7 or 8 other ones that I released as Patchwork. And yes, we are sort of halfway through album 14 as well, which is getting we're starting kind of mixing that at the moment. So hopefully, I reckon that'll be out sort of early next year sometime. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some artists, of course, the pandemic has offered them no avenue for inspiration, like some, and it's that we've got lots of covers records, live releases, instrumental albums. It doesn't sound
Right.
like that's been the case for you. Like, where have you been able to find your source to write from?
I feel like it's been the most unbelievably saucy time ever. Like, I just, not in a good way, unfortunately, but as far as like inspiration goes, the whole world is going through this insanity together. Like, for me, it's been, I've been writing and writing and writing, and it hasn't been an issue. I think, again, it goes back to that thing that we were talking about like, some bands write together and need a studio and need certain things to be able to have that creative process happen. All I need is a guitar. And I've always written on my own, and I can just kind of sit at my kitchen table and have a coffee and write a song. So it's easy, I'm lucky in that regard. So I feel like it's gone one way or the other. A lot of my musical friends say the same thing. Half of them have written 15 albums. The other half haven't picked up a guitar. And I think it's really split the writing community down the middle. Neither's, I suppose, I was going to say neither's better or worse. I'm glad I'm on the writing side. Yeah.
Well, so are we as fans. I mean, we benefit every single time. I look forward to hearing what comes out of that one. But in the meantime, thank you so much for this set and continuing to do what you do, both inside the songs and outsides. Mike, I really do appreciate it. And thanks for taking the time to talk about it.
It's been such a pleasure. And thanks for supporting the music. It means an awful lot. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care. And hopefully we'll see you soon.
All the best, man.
All right. Bye.